Hey, 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 beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. It is now time for Dear Jelly. Hope that you enjoyed listening with DJ Nick. I had a chance to get some of the background behind the music that he was playing today. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. History, musical history. Always, always, always a good time with his show. And I always learn something really cool. And I hope that you enjoyed it because it definitely was a good show. And it's now time for now time for Dear Jelly and Dear Jelly with me. Hey, hey. So today we're going to be talking about blind dates. Are there rules for blind dates? Suggestions that you have on how to ensure that there is a successful blind date? Have you been on a blind date? Would you be willing to share your experience from your blind date? I went on a blind date recently, but then also have we're also listening to. Sorry, I'm pulling up my DMs. Y'all know how I am about my DMs. Pulling up somebody sharing what happened on their blind date, and I don't think what happened to them is typical, but it can happen to anybody. So one of the things we definitely want to do, I think, in this new year, and some of you may not agree with me, but share with people that you're single. Share with people that you're available. I think there's a misconception that people assume that just because you're single, that they know that you're available or they know that you're willing to date right now. Don't just assume. Let the people know I'm single, ready to mingle. You never know who might know somebody. So that's what we're talking about today on Dear Jelly. And we're getting ready to get right into it. So here is Single Again by Harmonize. Let them know you're single. You listen to Dear Jelly on the X. Hey, VL, how are you? One second. Hey, Nora. Oh, no, not by Trina. Single Again. That song is. She thought he was perfect. Maybe I should play that next. This song has been on my, thanks to TikTok, has been on my mind. And so to get it out of my head, I had to play it. Hey, I'm single. Hey, Tia. Shout out to y'all. Hey, VL. He's great and grateful. I love that. Hey, Tia. Nora, not that song. It's not a bad one, though. It's not a bad one. Happy Sunday. How y'all doing today? I had to teach my business class today, so y'all see this cold trying to come in? No. Say no to the cold. Rebuke it. I know that's right. I know that's right, Nora. There's no room for this cold up in here. Here we go. That's a good. It's a catchy song. My phone is tripping. I need a new phone, y'all. You're listening to WXNALP Nashville 101.5 FM, and this is Dear Jelly. Hey, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. Tracking back, that was Harmonize with Single Again. Harmonize with Single Again. So today we're talking about blind dates. Blind dates are there some things that we need to kind of make sure that we have covered before we go on a blind date, meaning things that we need to make sure that we have covered, things we need to make sure that we've ground rules to people setting us up. So, sorry, I opened up my phone. So today got a message where a young lady says that, she let everybody know that she let her coworkers and her friends know that she was single and ready to mingle. She let her coworkers and her friends know she was single and ready to mingle. A coworker said she had the perfect person. They talked about what she likes, what she doesn't like, where her family's from. They did all this, went through dotted all the dots and crossed all the T's. He sounded amazing. She showed up at her blind date and found out that she had been set up with her cousin. So she had been set up with her cousin. So how do we make sure it doesn't happen? What are some things that, sorry, I had asked a question earlier, asking like, was it a first cousin? So it's not a first cousin, it's a distant cousin. At the end of the day, she was set up with her cousin. So what are some things we need to do to make sure? It's a blind date. They didn't want them to talk prior to. So how do we ensure that we're not being set up with our cousins? They talked about where they came from. She said they talked about where they were from. She talked about where they were from. She was from. Shared what she liked and didn't like. How do we ensure that you don't show up all sexy, ready, excited to meet the man of your dreams and it is your relative? Because let's be clear, times have changed. There was a time when people were trying to, have their relatives marry. This is not that time. We're not marrying our cousins. So how do we ensure that we don't get set up with our relatives? And or even if it wasn't a relative, it could have been an ex. Like, what if she would have got set up with an ex because the person didn't know? So how do we ensure? What do we say? What are some things we make sure to make sure that we are not being set up with an ex or we are not being set up with a cousin? What are some things that we need to do to ensure that doesn't happen? Because it could. It sounds like they pretty much just talked about what she likes and didn't like, but how do you make sure you don't get set up with your cousin? Man, I bet that was interesting. I'm just curious to know how. How do we make sure we're not being set up with your cousin? Let's talk about it. And have you been set up on a blind date before? So I had a blind date recently. We can talk about that too. Let me know. You're listening to Dear Jelly on the X. All right, let me see who's on. Hi, Ellen. She said, hey, girl, hey. Hey. Nora saying, good evening, everybody. Yes, we need to rebuke this cold, baby, because I got a TV interview in the morning and I'm not trying to sound like a frog. Hey, Selena, happy anniversary. It's her anniversary. Shout out to you and your hubby. I just let you know how long it's been since we have seen each other because you's a whole wife now. Selena, don't mention old relationships. Don't insult the other person. Have fun. Focus on what your goal is. Commitment, deal breakers, etc. People do that a lot on blind dates or even on dates, period. Talk about their exes, talk about what went wrong. That is a no. I get demographic information on a person. But even getting demographic information, if it's not a close cousin, how are we gonna make sure? I said it was a distant cousin. Girl, they had a whole family reunion. Your cousin. I'll be so mad. Be like mad but glad. Then when you get set up with your cousin though, do you still expect him to pay? Or because we family, like, I pay for my own meal now because I done got all cute to meet up with my cousin. Like, what's up with that? Tia said that's just a funny family reunion story. Random for sure. Random for sure, but it's possible. It can happen. So now it's like, I like corrective vision dates. What's a corrective vision date? What's a corrective vision date? Corrective vision dates. Oh! Oh, that went over my head. Got it. Corrective vision dates. So he ain't doing no blind dates. Selena said, ask about family members and family tree, where their family is originally from. That's cool. Yeah, find out where their family is originally from. Ask a family member where their family is originally from. So even, asking where their family is originally from is a good thing to do. I'm so excited for you. Beautiful, beautiful. That's good advice. That's good advice. Because then it's like, oh, where's his family from? Well, my family's originally from there too. We might be cousins. I have a friend who we're not related, but our families came from the same area. He had the same name as my granddaddy, but we're not related. So it's like, sometimes it's just coincidence. It's like, oh, we can have something in common, or we're from the same place, but no, he might be your cousin. Might be your cousin. Yes, I will only allow my brothers to set up a blind date for me. But what if you might miss out on somebody amazing? I'm just saying. You're listening to WXNALP Nashville 101.5 FM. And this is Dear Jelly with DJ Jelly. Hey, tracking back. That was Rick Hassani with Only You. Rick Hassani with Only You. And while we're out there trying to find our special someone with eyes for only us, I do want to share with you about Smokey the Bear. Smokey the Bear's message, only you can prevent forest fires, remains relevant today. Nearly 9 out of 10 wildfires nationwide are caused by humans and can be prevented. Whether on public lands or your own backyard, you have a role to play in keeping our safe places safe by doing your part and acting responsibly. More tips on safe recreation and wildfire prevention at beoutdoorsafe.org and at smokeybear.com. So if you're just tuning in, we're having a conversation with some wonderful people on TGI Jelly on Facebook as well as TGI Jelly on YouTube. And we are talking about a young lady who wrote in saying that she basically got set up on a blind date by a coworker and I guess asked all the questions, talked about where she's from, talked about what she's looking for, and ended up being set up with her cousin. Showed up at the restaurant all sexy and ready to go, and it was her cousin. So how can we prevent this type of thing from happening? Well, how can you make sure you're not getting set up with an ex? I guess to say like, okay, well, as long as their name is not this, or I just see something like that happening again. It's just funny. Tia says, that's a funny family reunion story, random for sure. VL shared, I like corrective vision dates, which I thought was hilarious. Took me a second to get that. Yes, he's like, nope, no blind dates. Selena says, ask about family members and family tree, where their family's originally from, which I think is great advice because, I mean, now coincidentally, you might have someone from the same place that you're from and you're not related, but you just don't want to take that chance. VL says, I would only allow my brothers to set up a blind date for me. So he's only allowing his brother to set up blind dates for him. VL says, not gonna miss. I prefer making wise decisions. So yeah, he does not want to walk in and his ex is there or his family member is there. Hey, Shannon. Shannon says she needs to date outside of her small town. Yeah, she needs to date outside of her small town. And it's just one of those things. I mean, when someone sets you up on a date, I guess those are things I never thought about asking. Like, okay, where is he from originally? Where his family from? What's his granddaddy name? Just did different things. But of course, they didn't. I guess they didn't want her to really know too much information. Let it be a surprise, and it was a surprise, all right, because it was her cousin. So even for me, I was set up on a blind date. Gentleman was very interesting. I think we have some of the same things in common, but communication style is very different. And I didn't really ask a lot of questions. It was just one of those things to where, I don't know what to ask. So this is a good time to talk about what can you ask so that you don't end up in that situation where you're being set up with a relative, where you're being set up with an ex. I like the thought of making sure it's not somebody from your town, but you can have relatives somewhere else. I like asking about family tree, where their family is originally from, maybe even sharing about your family to that person to be like, hey, can you check to make sure it's not my cousin? I mean, it seems like a crazy thing to say, but you might need to check to make sure it's not my cousin. What are some other things that we can ask to make sure that we have crossed, like she said, she thought she crossed every T and dotted every I, and yet she still ended up being set up with a relative. And so what are some things that you can ask to make sure? Are you open? I know VL said he's only open to his brother setting him up on a blind date. He also says, VL says, I want to talk before going out. No, then it's not blind. If you're talking before you're going out, it's not blind. There was another time where I was set up on a blind date by a relative, and she was a big fan of this gentleman. Big fan of this gentleman, but he was certainly not a good match for me. Somebody who didn't like, I'm someone who likes to travel. So that's a good question to ask. Like, hey, do you like to travel? Because his whole thing was absolutely no traveling at all. Everything you need is in your city. And so even when I was sharing some of the things I like to do, he was quick to cut me off and be like, not doing that. Nope, not traveling. Nope, don't believe in going outside of your city. Everything you need is right here. God provides everything right where you are. It was just an interesting thing. A lot of things that I am a fan of, he was very anti. He just was like, no, that's terrible. That's a bad idea. It just wasn't a good match. And so I feel like making sure the person understands what's important to you is important as well. Making sure they understand that things that matter, like not just a body. I just don't want a warm body. I want somebody that I can connect with, gel with, have some things in common with. Jenna says, oh no, not a relative. Yeah, she was set up with a distant cousin. VL says, I have learned that corrective vision dates work best with me. I love the fact that you're calling it corrective vision dates, and I think I'm going to start using that term. But so if you're not able to talk to the person prior to, and sometimes even talking to the person prior to doesn't make that big of a difference. I talked to somebody the last blind date that I was set on. I talked to the gentleman briefly through Messenger, and it was very dry. unless I pushed for conversation, which kind of was a prelude of what was to come. Um, it was a prelude of what was to come. And so, yeah, talking to the person ahead of time, if possible, it's a great way to know, like, if this is going to be a dud or not. Regardless of that, I still went through with it. It was an experience. I'm grateful for all experiences. And yeah, has anybody else been on a blind date? Has anybody? What are some other things that we should ask if you don't get to go on a corrective vision date? What are some things that we should say to the person who's setting us up to make sure that it is not a relative that shows up at the dinner table? What can you do to make sure things are sweet like sugar cane and not bitter? You're listening to Dear Jelly. Here's Sugar Cane by Camido. My voice is really trying to leave, y'all. I'm not desperate. Value my time. That's funny. It's a blind date, so they're not telling you who they are. It's blind. Or who their people are. Yeah. I want somebody in the studio. It's a hard one though. Who their people are, yeah. It's a hard thing though, because you don't know. You don't know if it's going to be a good connection. Talking to the person can help you, but sorry, I'm trying to log on, see if she sent me anything or if I have anything online. You don't know. Joyce. Okay. We don't know. We don't know who their people are. Has anybody else here been also? He said, I'm not desperate and value my time, so I screen for suitability. I don't think it's desperate to go. I don't think it's desperate if you agree to go on something like that. I just think it's just an experience. You're listening to WXNALP Nashville 101.5 FM. This is Dear Jelly, and tracking back, that was Camido with Sugar Cane. Sugar Cane. If you're just joining us, we're having a discussion about a young lady who was set up by a coworker. She thought she crossed every T and dotted every I, only to find that she was set up to have a date with her cousin. It was a distant cousin. So we're trying to just figure out what are some things that we should be asking, especially if it's a blind date situation where we are not given any information so that it is a blind date. What are some things we should be asking? What are some, I guess, some stipulations we should put in place to ensure that we're not getting set up with a relative like she was set up with her cousin, and make sure we're not set up with an ex. We had some really good things earlier where someone was saying, date outside your small town, ask about where the people come from, ask about their relatives before going out. VO was saying that he has to talk to the person. So even though it is a blind date, he has to talk to the person. So that also might be a good way screening the person. Because then if you talk to them, you might find information that the person who set you up didn't know. Maybe through conversation, you might find out that it is your mama's second cousin's baby boy, a baby girl, through conversation. VL says that I have learned that corrective vision dates work best with me. Jenna says, I had a FaceTime like that. Great voice to voice, but the FaceTime was weird. What? So the FaceTime was weird. So great voice to voice. So talking on the phone, it was like, okay, that was cool. But the FaceTime was weird. VL says, I'm not desperate and value my time, so I screen for suitability. And so now let's be clear, no judgment. If you are being set up with somebody or you're open to a blind date, it does not mean that you are desperate. If he's just saying that the way that he operates, he's not doing anything blind. But that doesn't mean that if you choose to that you're desperate. We're just having a conversation. Jenna says, you got to ask who their people are, which is true. You got to ask who their people are. Even nowadays, even if you have, like, you can have their photo, like the person that I recently was set up to go on a date with, I could view his photos, once information was shared, I could view his photos, but his photos were aged, meaning they were old photos, very, very old photos. And so the gentleman that I encountered did not look like the pictures. But and that's not the first time that something like that has happened. So even if you see people online, like y'all know, I've done a lot of the online dating thing, and you look at their profile, and then you come on, and it's like, who are you? Who are you? Via says, a prior sensory contact helps me explore interests and attraction. A prior sensory contact. So you need to see if you're attracted to them or not before you agree to a date. It's a blind date, and I think that the premise of blind date also helps us to kind of get out of our head. I feel like it helps you to be a lot more open. I just think it's a good experience. I do think it's a good experience. I think it's hilarious that she ended up being set up with her cousin, but it is, I think it's a good experience and helps us grow as a person. VL says, sensory, see or hear. Okay, so you need to hear them. So you're okay with hearing them. Without seeing them, I think you have to see them just by who he is. So this day and age, even if they send you a picture, if they give you a picture, it's not a blind date. Blind date literally means blind date. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna walk into, what they look like. And I did that with my cousin. My cousin set me up, and he was a very short gentleman. He came up to my shoulder, and he just wasn't interested in any of the same things that I was interested in. And nothing against people of different heights, but I just prefer to date people that are my height or taller. And looking down was just not something that I was comfortable with, and that's okay, right? That's okay. He typically dates women that are taller, and I was just not her. I was not she that was meant for him. I think he's married now anyway, so he found somebody, and I'm still out here in these single streets, which is okay, right? It's okay. So, Jenna says, yeah, I'm good on the blind dates. Okay, so Jenna doesn't want blind dates either. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like there was a period of time where so many people were going on blind dates, and that might have just been, was that like pre-social media? Maybe that's why, like pre the Facebooks, pre the dating apps, maybe that's why. Do y'all remember back in the day where there was a thing where you would call and it'll be men and women on the call line and you would describe what you look like? So I used to be on those lines. And they would describe, and you would click to leave a message for so and so, and you would talk. That was kind of like a blind date. Um, do they still have those things now? I don't think they do. But that was kind of like a blind date. You would call and you would talk to people on there and listen to them, and it would be like, "Ooh, this is what they sound like." But I mean, finding somebody that's compatible can definitely be hard to find. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. One thing I do know is that whenever you tune into WXNA, you've got the power of the low power FM radio on. You're hearing the modern sounds of Music City, and it's all possible because of listener support. Keep us going like the Roadrunner by becoming a member or making a one-time donation today. Go to WXNAFM.org. Those calls were fun, though. Those calls were fun. I think I would be open to something like that again, just for the experience, y'all. I'm big on the experience things. VO says, I like intentional dating versus blind dating. But isn't intentional can blind dating not be intentional? Help me out, y'all. Help me out. I feel like either one, there's an intention. There's an intention. This is interesting, though. I feel like I'm just wondering if more people, if we didn't have social media, would more people be open to the whole blind dating thing? Has anybody ever had a successful blind date situation? I've had a friend that has had a successful blind date situation. They're still married to this day. I'm just thinking for myself, I guess it's just not. I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed. I am not opposed. I have not had success on these blind dates, but I am not opposed to going on more blind dates. What about y'all? Y'all down? Y'all down? Finding a good, finding a match might be hard to find, but it's possible. Here's Hard to Find by Chike featuring Flavor. You listen to Dear Jelly on the X. Play. You said for your intentional dating, I know what I'm walking into. My eyes are open. You killing me with this eyes are open. I'm open to it. Something fell in my eye, y'all. I'm sorry. I keep. You gonna agree with VL? Y'all not open at all. It's for the fun of it. So, where are y'all on the whole? Where are y'all on the whole having friends introduce you? So if it's not a blind date, having friends introduce you. Yes, definitely to each their own. Jenna says, I'm going to agree with VL on this one. Jenna says, nope, that is not fun to me. VL says to each their own. And that's real. You just got to know what you're okay with. I can definitely understand that. Where are y'all on having your friends? Are we open to dating friends' relatives? Jenna said, oh, VL says, I make sure I screen and willing to be screened. So everybody knows what they're getting. I don't know what fell in my eye. Jen, I may definitely do a friend introducing me as long as they know what I like. Ooh, let's talk about that. You're listening to WXNA LP Nashville 101.5 FM. Tracking back, that was Chike with Hard to Find featuring Flavor. And so, speaking of hard to find, we know that it is hard to find compatible mates. At least it feels like it's hard to find. But one thing that I feel like I'm learning as time goes by, and is that maybe it's us. Maybe we're the reason that it seems like it's hard to find. Maybe we're picky. Maybe we're not being open. Maybe we're not being clear on what we're really looking for. Maybe we don't know. Maybe we haven't spent time to grow individually and see what we really want. And if you're just tuning in, we are discussing where a young lady was introduced to someone on a blind date, and she thought she had crossed every T and dotted every I, only to get to the place feeling sexy and desirable, only and then coming to the restaurant to find out that she had actually been set up on a blind date by her coworker with her cousin, a distant cousin. And so we've been talking about how do we make sure that we don't end up being set up with a cousin or an ex? Like, what are some things we need to ask or put in place to make sure that we don't end up in that type of awkward situation? We've had some great advice, things people saying like, make sure you date outside your town, asking where people are from, seeing if you can have a conversation with someone ahead of time. VL has been saying instead of a blind date, he would like a corrective vision date, which I love that term. But yeah, it's the whole like, I need to talk to them. I need to see something so that I know what I'm walking into. He made a comment. VL made a comment. It says a prior sensory contact helps me to explore interest and attraction. Sensory meaning see or hear. There has to be something, which I can understand that because I feel like I'm always telling you my personal business. I need to be able to have a conversation with you. And I'm just one of those people that, yeah, talking to you and being able to understand what you're saying is very, very important. And so being able to understand the words coming out of your mouth, it's important. VL says, I like intentional dating versus blind dating. And when asked about intentional, he said, for me, intentional dating, I know what I'm walking into. My eyes are wide open. Jenna says, I'm going to agree with VL on this one. Jenna says, nope, that is not fun to me in terms of the whole blind date. I said, I'm still open to blind dates. I am still open. I am open. VL, let it be known, to each their own. And we're just having a conversation. No judgment here at all. VL says, I make sure I screen and willing to be screened. And that's the thing too. If you're going to ask 1,000 questions and want to know about this person, then you better be willing, like he said, to be screened as well. Jenna says, I may definitely do a friend introducing me as long as they know what I like. And I mean, the general sense of what we like, I think is important to be clear about that. But I feel like sometimes we don't necessarily know what we like. Sometimes we might, if we're open, we might find that we like things that we didn't know we were going to like. It depends on the person. Jenna says, nope, not doing a friend's relative. Again, been there. Oh, what happened with the friend's relative? VL says, oftentimes I get referral from friends, associates, and coworkers. Okay, so friends, associates, and coworkers are trying to set you up with people. I like how you said it, referrals. So they're like, hey, look at my daughter. Hey, look at my cousin. Hey. So what has anything come of that? Has anything come of that? Has it kind of helped you have a better idea of what you want? Has it kind of helped them set you up with people who are more in line with what you want? VL says, I'm still going to screen. So bottom line, VL is going to screen. If you want VL to meet someone, he has to know he's going to screen them. They have to pass the vision test. Jenna says, probably need to at least know a name. So yeah, a blind date is not a name. You don't get anything. It's not blind. It's not blind when you know something. But like I said, this is 2023. So yeah, knowing a name might be cool to know somebody's name. VL says, one time I went on a date and we got in a relationship. Ooh, so someone set him up. They were in a relationship. That's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. So my only question then is, so, and that was not your brother's, that was a coworker setting you up, but I understand you had to screen them first, right? It wasn't blind. You had to screen them first. So are you open to more of those? Um, Jenna said she had where the phone conversation was okay, but the FaceTime was weird. What do you mean by the FaceTime being weird? VO says most times they thought I would be good for the person, but it wasn't the reverse. And see, and that's what I have experienced a lot of when I've asked different friends if they know someone they can introduce me to, and they'll say, "Yeah, I know a great guy in terms of you being great for him, but not him being great for you." And so, I mean, it's good to have people that you can trust who will be honest enough to let you know, like, no, sis, he ain't for you. She's not for you. I do want to share with you guys about COVID. The CDC recommends protecting yourself and others against coronavirus by staying up to date on your COVID-19 vaccines. The new booster protects against both the original virus and the Omicron variants, BA.4 and BA.5. For eligibility and vaccination locations near you, visit vaccines.gov. So, VO is sharing more about the date that he had. He says it was a friend who has intimate knowledge of me. Okay. Has, not has. A friend who has intimate knowledge of you. Had, not has. So it's a friend who had intimate knowledge of you. And so that's why you were open to them setting you up, because you're like, no, this is what I like, what I don't like. So it sounds like the consensus today is that y'all are not open to blind dates. We're not open to being introduced to blind dates. Nobody's going on their phone line and meeting somebody that way. I say do it. Life is short. Tomorrow is not promised. Let's get out here and meet some people. Jenna says the guy was staring and hardly talking on the FaceTime. So he was just staring at you. He was just staring at you, just staring at you. He was admiring your beauty. He was admiring your beauty. That sounds nice. He was like, "Ooh, this is really something." Speaking of something, here's something by Bayaki. By Gayaki. Listen, Dear Jelly on the X. Play. He was admiring your beauty, girl. You should just start flexing. Like, oh, you like what you see? Ow, 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 ow. I gotta get rid of this cold, y'all. Yeah, it was a weird stare. Are you sure he was like okay? He might have been having a seizure or something. I don't think Juan is coming today. I think that's what he told me. I have got to go home. Well, first, before I go home, I'm going to a friend's house. So she can look at the dresses that I have lined up for my interview tomorrow. I have a TV interview tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. I think something was wrong with him. Yeah, I'm saying he could have been having like a seizure or something. I wish I could still play music out loud, but Facebook is a hater. I appreciate y'all being here. I see all y'all that have been popping in and popping out and sending me messages instead of commenting, but it's okay. I love y'all. I appreciate everybody that tunes in and supports. You don't have to do this, but you do, and I really appreciate it so much. So much. I appreciate you. She said, "No, bro was a little off. He was off, like he was like off. How long was this date, this FaceTime call? How long did you stay on this FaceTime with somebody that was off?" She said, "Nah." How long were you on the phone with him? Was it FaceTime or was it like Facebook? You're listening to WXNA LP Nashville 101.5 FM. This is Dear Jelly with DJ Jelly. Hey, hey, hey. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Tracking back, that was Gayaki with Something. Something. And that blind date and blind dates in general can definitely be something. Can definitely be something. But even if you are on a blind date, if you're open to somebody setting up on a blind date, if you're not open to somebody setting up on a blind date, I do want to encourage you, just be open to new experiences. Let everybody know what you are okay with, what you're not okay with. I appreciate the different people that shared what they're okay with, what they're not okay with, what their stipulations are. It is very important to do that, and just not to compromise who you are and what you're willing to experience. It's very important. So you have to know yourself. Take time to know yourself and then put it out there. Hey, I'm single, ready to mingle. Who do you know? And you never know. It might be part of your story where it turns out like someone knew somebody amazing. Jenna's sharing about a phone call that she had, a FaceTime that she had with a gentleman who was staring at her, and she thought he was a little bit off. She said she was on the call, the FaceTime maybe 5 minutes at the most, because he had to go to bed, and so did I. It was Duo, which was just like FaceTime. This was a late night thing, so he was just staring at you, and then was like, I gotta go to bed. Maybe it was his bedtime. Maybe his mom was letting him know he had to go to bed. I'm just saying. I don't. Maybe it was his bedtime, and he was letting you know he had to go to bed before he got in trouble with his mom. Maybe that's why he was staring at you. He wasn't trying to talk too much, so he wouldn't disturb the other people in the house. I'm just saying, anything is possible. At least you experienced it, realize it wasn't for you, and now know that you're not comfortable with people just staring at you. I'm just saying, that's hilarious. All right, guys. I do want to share one more thing with you. It's a show called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Tune in every Friday at 11 p.m. for I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. DJ Travis T highlights local releases by Nashville artists alongside other musical gems with an emphasis on contemporary indie rock. Only on WXNA 101.5 FM and streaming online at WXNAFM.org. You can sleep when you're dead. That is hilarious. Yeah, Jenna says, so it was weird. Yeah, it sounds weird, Jenna. It sounds weird, but it definitely was an experience, and I'm so glad you had it because I wouldn't have been able to enjoy this part of the conversation if you had not. 5 minutes of somebody staring at you, though, is a little odd. It's a little odd. But, hey. What doesn't hurt us make us stronger, right? It's hilarious. All right, y'all. Have a great week. Hope you have a great week. Hope you have a great night. We'll be here same time, same place next week. Be sure to let me know what's going on with you. What you'd like us to help you with? What conversation you'd like us to have? We do exclude all names to protect the innocent. Hit me up on TGI Jelly on all social platforms. Thank you for being here. Couldn't do this without you. Wouldn't do this without you. We appreciate you so very much for supporting WXNA. And I am out. You guys have a great, great week. This is Dear Jelly, DJ Jelly, signing off. Have a great one. All right, y'all. I'm trying to get off, so just in case Juan is coming today, he can jump right in. Love you guys. Have a great week. Thank you for being here. I am hopping off. See y'all later. Love this song.